So what is it like playing club rugby in England? Now, I'll suggest sticking around to the end, guys, because in this video, I'm going to cover three main areas of the rugby in England, and then I'll give you some advice at the end. And I know that advice in these areas would have been really useful for me before I started playing or looked to play club rugby in England years ago as a foreigner. Three areas I'm going to cover. Firstly, what is rugby like in England? What is the standard and style of it actually like? Number two, what are the clubs and people like in England in the rugby environment? Number three, what are the job prospects like? And what's it actually like working in England? And then finally, our advice at the end. Firstly, what's the rugby like in England in terms of standard and style? Look, actually the rugby is very strong in England, and particularly around about 6 years ago when I was playing club rugby, I was playing at the level below. They had a semi-professional level under the Premiership, and I was playing the level below that. I played between Division 1 and Division 2 in that club comp. It's actually not that well known. England's actually the wealthiest rugby nation in the world, and certainly you see that at Grassroots. The money and the resources they have and kit, etc., is really impressive. So it's good rugby. In terms of style, I certainly had to adapt as a Kiwi. I remember my first game, certainly the running rugby style is not as prominent in England. I remember my first game there, I made a break up the middle, and then I did a no-look pass, and I sort of expected a Kiwi beside me to catch the ball, except you're not playing rugby in New Zealand, and so I did a no-look pass to nobody. So that wasn't very good looking in my first game. But yeah, it's sort of the style of rugby there is tighter. It's not the running rugby. It's not probably as fast in general as New Zealand, that running style, but it's different. The first game though as well, what I realised was, yeah, England, the breakdown is a real area of focus for them. And I think for my first one or two clean outs, I just sort of went in like New Zealand style, 70% into that breakdown, half expecting the opposition just to not really contest and then span out and look to defend out wide for that running rugby like they do in New Zealand. And yeah, got a couple of turnovers against me. So I had to adapt. Every single breakdown I hit with absolutely 120% clean the opposition out. Otherwise, you got a turnover. So definitely a different aspect to their game over there. And look, the physicality, I would definitely say the club rugby, the physicality was much more brutal than New Zealand's rugby comp. Particularly, I remember a couple of games in, a lot of their rugby players hit the gym pretty hard, and I remember this club we played at, I looked over, and I'm not sure how much actual on-field training the opposition was doing, because their loose forwards were just like gym junkies, just a bunch of human tanks, and certainly I looked over and wow. And certainly when they got that ball, they didn't sort of run at loose shoulders like I found in New Zealand. They just run straight at you, big collisions. I think that game, those brutal loose forwards, I think I got bumped off once or twice. So it was a bit of an eye-opener. Brutal physicality in the rugby over there. So what are the clubs and people like? Look, I think in general, rugby players are rugby players. The club I was at, look, great, welcoming people. They're pretty chilled out guys looking for a good time to play rugby, enjoy their rugby and socialise with a beer or two afterwards. And yeah, it was great. The one thing I do remember, which was quite a cultural difference for a Kiwi anyway, playing the club rugby in England. So where I played at London, I imagine it might be a bit different outside of London, but particularly the club I was at, predominantly rugby is a private school game there. I believe the state schools predominantly play soccer. Obviously, compared to New Zealand, where just all facets of life, state schools, private schools, everybody from all facets plays rugby. So, you at a club in New Zealand, the club I was at, as I said, all facets of life. a lot of tradesmen, dairy farmers, everybody in my previous club. Whereas turning up to this club in London, predominantly private school type guys, what was clear was the rugby players were very intelligent, very well educated. Predominantly all of them had very good jobs as well. You know, a number of high-flying lawyers, accountants, engineers, surveyors, IT, you know, really high-skilled, intelligent careers for them. So, and particularly things like moves and games, they were really intelligent. They'd pick up on moves really quickly, and that was something different to what I'd experienced before. What are the job prospects like, and what's it like working in England? It depends on what you do as a job. Certainly my industry, where I was based at in London, was cutthroat, but there was an enormous amount of opportunities. My particular industry in London at the time was very lucrative, which was good. And the work I was doing was really exciting, challenging. The people I was working with were very smart and very capable. What I found was London was, you know, quite a big international hub. So with big corporations, you know, a lot of really intelligent people moved to London for their careers to develop. So I certainly developed it and learned from very good, capable people while I was there. Again, outside of London, like I said though, Manchester, Leeds, those sorts of places, I imagine it would be a very different working environment to the hustle and bustle of London. And look, saying that, I would be if you just want to do a random labouring or random type work, not in your career, I'd genuinely be very surprised if the rugby club couldn't find work for you available to foreigners. So really good job prospects, and yeah, working there was great for me. So advice for people considering moving to England to play club rugby as a foreigner. The first big thing ultimately is, look, is your career transferable? So say you're based in Australia and New Zealand. If you spent 2-3 years in England, would that be pretty similar to 2 or 3 years in New Zealand? If that's the case, then you arguably you probably wouldn't lose anything in your career in terms of development. And yeah, so that's something for you to consider. If you're scared, not knowing anyone, look, I've been in that boat. When I arrived, foreigner, Kiwi, turning up to an English rugby club, English rugby environment. You know, I'm not from that environment, so it is daunting. But what I'd say to that is get involved with the club, you know, get involved with the socials, and, you know, pretty quickly the club, I'm sure, will make you feel welcome and likely to develop a lot of good friendships along the way as well. Thirdly, use the club networks. Look, I just look back at this England rugby club. It was a big rugby club in London, and particularly what a number of them did as careers. You know, you had range from lawyers, accountants, engineers, surveyors, IT, doctors, physios. As I said, a very extensive network in that rugby club. And so use that. You know, if you're unsure about job prospects or you're looking to find a job and you're having trouble, you know, reach out to the rugby club. If you're unsure on accommodation, etc., you know, reach out to the club. That extensive network, you know, can be really useful. So I suggest using that. In summary, playing overseas, playing in England, you know, these were the best years of my life. You know, just awesome rugby experiences. The experiences, like I look at playing a game that I'll never forget. Towards the end of my time playing club rugby over there, we had been losing a few games, and man, I wanted to win that game badly. The team wanted to win really badly. We didn't unfortunately win that game, but that's sport. But we travelled outside of Brighton, below London, almost a rural type club, or off the beaten track anyway. And yeah, after the game, I was having a couple of beers with the opposition and just discussing, you know, the rugby culture and talking rugby with the Brighton locals. You know, I got a true England rugby experience. It was really awesome, a really excellent experience that I'll never forget. Secondly, the other thing I thought and I really enjoyed at the time was, look, and I'll be honest, the first 6 months, I played like a Kiwi in England, and I didn't play well. I didn't play good rugby for my first well, first couple of months anyway, because I didn't adapt to the style. But when I finally realised, look, this isn't going to work, and started adapting, you know, I changed my game. I played tighter. I was better at the breakdown, better at the set piece. And that's something that I really enjoyed in my time there, having to adapt and change your game. And it becomes you a much better rugby player in general. So those are some great opportunities that you get playing rugby in England and overseas if you get the opportunity. Guys, if you have any questions or queries about playing rugby in England, put them in the comments box, please, and I'll be sure to follow them up. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and add any further comments or queries you have about playing rugby in England. Cheers.